Hello everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album by Manic Street Preachers, Critical Thinking. So Manic Street Preachers is a band that just kind of had a lot of success from the noughties, and they definitely have flown that wave of just kind of the indie Britpop trend that a lot of bands did around then, like Stereophonics and Kaiser and had their own line of success with some really good material. Honestly, their early stuff way to a more hard rock sound that blended into Britpop that I thought worked quite nicely, and then the Everything Must Go record was a perfect blend to entirely kind of ditch that to go for something more traditional Britpop. And then you had This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, something that I felt was just kind of the pinnacle big chapter of their success, which is some of the biggest songs they've put out on there, and I still think that the sound there is pretty good. Even going towards Send Away the Tigers, which I think is probably the last album I had interest going into, and then the trend I kind of had with Manic Street Preachers is that they have gone from having all these ambitious ideas, and especially just some strong singles. They've honestly been doing pretty good for a while, but I think for the last decade or two, I don't think Manic's been releasing their best material. I think this is now at the point where I think they have kind of recycled ideas we've heard before. So Critical Thinking, in my opinion, just kind of reminds me of the Ultra Vivid Lament, a record that just plays into this more soft, beachy, just not really beachy, but just kind of this more soft pop rock sound that doesn't even feel like rock anymore. It just kind of feels very traditional, just with like nothing to really pull you in anymore. I think Critical Thinking, the lead track or the opening track, is actually a pretty interesting song. It definitely shows how different their stuff is, but I think Critical Thinking kind of brings this bit more of this tongue-in-cheek sort of yard act narration point, and even kind of reminds me of something I could see from a lot of bands back in the 2010s at least that have been riding on a legacy that's come from the early noughties. But Critical Thinking is the only thing that I actually thought was entertaining enough, and then my kind of opinion has just changed. The singles we had were not anything that enticed me, and listening to them back to back, they just feel like the same song, and I think that's the biggest issue. A lot of this just kind of feels like it does the same thing. You hear very similar soft guitars, very similar sort of overproduced sounds that just kind of intertwine throughout. It just kind of creates probably the most bland experience we've heard thus far. I think for a Manic Street Preachers record, this is definitely beyond the point of no return. I don't think we're going to see the old stuff come back, which I know bands change over time, but there's still bands like Stereophonics from that wave that's still releasing good stuff, and even Blur, the Ballad of Darren was actually a pretty good record, so it is definitely possible. But I think Manic Street Preachers have taken the poppy side that got a lot of attention from This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, and Send Away the Tigers, and just delve further down that line, and I think the originality just kind of completely vanished at that point. This certainly isn't an album that I find much enjoyment whatsoever to go into, and I kind of was expecting that because the singles didn't really do much, and I think this is just kind of another album that follows the trend of what we had from the previous. This is not a strong Manic Street Preachers record, and I think even with 12 tracks, there's only one that I think enticed me, and after that it just kind of becomes a bit of a very generic, bland experience. It's not awfully produced records, but I think the biggest issue is just the songs just don't have any originality to them. It just feels like the most generic stuff I could think of when it comes to indie or just the soft pop rock. It doesn't have much flavour to it, and that's kind of all I can really take from this record. Even the songs lyrically, I just don't really find much connection to anymore. They don't really hit like they used to. I kind of sound a bit like I'm trying to be an old person doing that impression, but this certainly is not a Manic Street Preachers album, and I don't think this will be winning any awards ever. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give it a 2. I don't think it is too bad that I had to give it any low score, but it certainly isn't an album I ever really want to go back into. It's just kind of a dud, and I just feel like it doesn't need to really be there. It just kind of exists. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.